Hey everybody, it's Phoenix Carnevale, and this is the Knockout Life. And as you know, we're not just talking about MMA or fitness or combat sports. We're talking lifestyle. We're talking about all the things that lead to having, quote unquote, that knockout life. What do I mean? I mean just living our best selves. And if you are a martial artist, it's way more than kicking and punching. There's principles within your life that lead to a happy, healthier, more balanced lifestyle. So that's what we're going to talk about. I always bring on really cool people that are inspiring and funny and fun. So hopefully you'll have a good time when you listen to this podcast and you'll learn something. Today, I wanted to bring on somebody that I've known for a really, really long time. He's one of my first ever interviews, one of my first ever martial arts interviews. So now we've come full circle to talk more today. His name is Michael Jai White, and you know him as an actor, a martial artist, a director, and he's one of my old friends. Mike, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. Good to see you again.
See you too. I got to start at the beginning. Do you remember when we met?
Yeah, was it the Urban Action Showcase? Was it that?
That was the second time.
Okay.
First time we were at some like martial arts thing in Atlantic City.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Action Martial Arts Hall of Fame.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And you were one of my first interviews, but it was super impressionable on me because even though we were joking and we were having a lot of fun, you had brought up how you were as a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
You had said that you had learned to be like lighten up. You had learned to lighten up, to let go of your anger. And you
Mm-hmm.
something I found really interesting. You said that I realized that my anger was just me not having answers to questions and
True.
angry about it.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
so can you elaborate on like, I don't know how that concept got brought up, but can you
Yeah.
elaborate what you meant by that?
Yeah, I feel like any emotion, anger, resentment, jealousy, everything that leads to a negative emotion starts with a question. You go, why did you say that? Why is this happening? What's going? Like if you're in a traffic jam, right? You're angry because you don't understand what caused it, right? You're like, what the hell's going? And then you get to the front of it and you see there's an accident. Then you're no longer angry, right? And so, using that as an analogy, every time you're angry or confused or upset, there's a piece of information that you just don't know. But if you concern yourself with what might be the cause of it, you pull yourself out of it because you can be in a traffic jam tomorrow or today and get angry. It's your choice. But how many traffic jams does it take before you realize it's a logical reason for it and it's not a plot against you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have that choice. So if you can be like, upset for the second and you go, wait a minute, oh, okay, I know there's a logical answer. Well, I'll think of something else. So I feel like so much in life is that way. If you concern yourself with the root of it, you can pull yourself out of it almost every time. You'll understand. And part of my thing is no matter what, I try to prove the opposition right before I prove them wrong. And that's all about not having ego, because I think ego is just a destruction of your capabilities. You walk around with just thinking that you want to be right just because you're who you are. That's a recipe for destruction.
A lot of these are martial arts concepts,
Mm-hmm.
but that you get more from traditional martial arts, not per se MMA. I think MMA fighters, there's some of
More
them
sport.
percent martial artists. So let's
Mm-hmm.
not discriminate. Of course, you and I both love MMA.
Oh
That's
yeah, yeah.
we share. Um, but I wonder because you had specifically mentioned it towards your younger self or being angry,
Yes.
having aggression. This is a very enlightened point of view. Where did that come from? How did you learn that lesson about where your anger was coming from?
Yeah, by stopping and asking why. I had the worst temper than anybody I knew. Probably anybody I've ever even witnessed. When I played the Mike Tyson story, which was fortuitous, that was wonderful. It was a great opportunity because I understood. I think I understood him a great deal. And those of us who are more emotional things don't roll off our backs. I didn't know I was an artist growing up, so things affected me. And
Right.
so understanding that, the nature of that, I was sensitive, and just stopping and really figuring out why I was angry, and find out, like, because a lot of your anger is always connected to a fear, you know. And if you're honest with yourself, and if you want the best life, it's you owe it to yourself to really dig deep and find the root of these things, because you don't want to be uh, you don't want to have no control in your life. And so that was just like, if you're angry and you flip out, you've lost control. That simply that you've lost control. And there should be, I mean, I feel like, for an adult, and for as a man, you owe it to yourself to you know to not let your emotions override your intelligence. You know, so um, before, anytime I'd feel anything, I would stop and kind of look at things objectively, and that's been very good for me, tremendous for me and my family. And I'm very happy to say, I have two teenage daughters who have claimed that they've never seen me, like, raise my voice, or but maybe once or twice, and for a very good reason. But I seldom do that. Like, my youngest has never seen me angry.
Yeah.
So it's and as a result, my family, my children, they do this. Children will do what they see,
Yes.
not necessarily what you tell them. And so, my kids, when I see them have the tendency to get control of their emotions, that's something that I feel proud of, because I know that they see the attempt that their mother and myself have with our relationships and everything else, um, and then they follow suit.
I think it's a big deal because when you show self-control, when you show the, in the, I think the military, there's this great book that I love called On Combat. He talks about arousal control, and it's not talking about sexual arousal. It's just talking
Hmm.
about when you get like amped up and being able
Hmm.
to control so that you see clearly.
Yeah,
And talk about that in combat sports all the time. So it's so funny that you had played Mike Tyson. Was that the late 80s, early 90s that you played Mike Tyson? Or was it
that
age
was
three?
94, 95.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
So Mike, at the height of his career, so many people were emulating Mike Tyson, that
Mm.
air, that like aggression, those type of things. And now Mike's an adult and he so easily talks about his feelings.
Mhm.
Amazing to know like all the backstories that he went through. Really different boxing and martial arts, right? Like very, very different worlds, similar things where ego is sometimes necessary, but also at the same time needs to be checked. It's this really weird balance where you have to be egotistical enough to believe you can win, but humble enough to get your ass kicked occasionally by your
Mhm.
squad. So can you talk about how you've kind of checked your own ego in such a career as a martial artist and an actor, which there's a ton of ego there that you have to check, like how you kind of keep your ego and emotions in check?
Well, I mean, there are principles that are way beyond me, that's more important than I am, that I live by. So it's kind of like, oh, all right, like, uh, the principles, but being, especially men, we tend to default to our primitive selves at times, especially when men become exonerated and praised, and they use, whether it's even in religion or any, men get drunk with power and then revert to who they were in the first place. You
Okay.
know, which is like, the insecure types, or that's why it's good to have a system of checks and balances, like the military. There's nobody who doesn't answer to someone else. But sometimes in the martial arts, people will ordain themselves grandmaster this or that, and no one is above them. And then you see the decline in their character. They start to kind of succumb to people bowing to them, and they start believing their own height. and they're no longer humble, which is a main tenet of what martial arts is about, right? And so you because what you know, you see that with men, you don't see that with women of high standing, you know, but you can, of course. But like that's what it is. That's why for me, if I got a black belt in one thing, I put on a white belt in something else. Uh, being humble. I mean, I love when I'm wrong. Every time I'm wrong, I learn something. So what's there to protect, right? If I and I will brag about the times where I'm sparring someone and they get the best of me, or I don't do as well, because then I have an opportunity to learn. You know, I talk like endlessly about when I was training with Michael Bisping, and I was so my conditioning was horrible,
Oh, he's so
horrible, and I, you know, and I couldn't believe I let myself my wind get that bad, and that to that day I've never been that bad as far as cardiovascularly. So I learned so much about that
yeah.
by by being so embarrassed that in the third round I could I couldn't defend myself, you know? So I laugh at that, and that's where I can become better. It's kind of that way, but I take that in my regular life. So if I'm wrong about something, I learn something. So if I'm in a debate with someone,
Yeah.
I'm not protecting me being right. I want to be wrong. You know, I want to be wrong. So I learned something, but I'm not going to stand in a place of of protecting my ego to be right. That's silly. You know, so that's worked really well with me in learning the truth about things, and you know, starting with yourself, being really honest with yourself. And I think it all starts there.
Yeah, and that's like the theme of today. We're talking about lightening up a little bit. And
Hmm.
lighten up, you definitely learn better because you're not super stressed about getting it right. I remember some of my coaches like loved working with me, and I'm like, really, all I did was screw up all day. They're like, yeah, but you ask the right questions. Hey,
Hmm.
catching me in this head and arm choke, like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
Or okay, like I keep getting hit with the right hand. Like, what's am I stepping into this? Like, what's happening? And it's always a good sign, I think, even for us when we teach, because I know you teach sometimes with martial arts too, when you coach people and things like you get excited when the student asks the right questions.
Yeah.
And when they're asking questions, they're not frustrated. Well, you could be frustrated, but you're more humble to ask. And and being humble is part of being a martial artist. They say show shin, keep a beginner's mind, and all that type of stuff. But I wonder when there's a opposite to that, where you need your ego or you need your anger. And how do you know when those are things that you want to pull out of your pocket and actually utilize it?
Yeah, well, see, I know I will dig into the earlier me for acting purposes. I remember I can, you know, kind of recreate those issues, because a lot of times you play characters that have certain flaws, but I don't ever feel like it is a thing about tapping into ego. I kind of look at it as a different way. If I'm trying to be my best, right? Digging down to be my best, not in a comparative method to be better than someone else, right? Let me say it like this, because I had physical attributes growing up that I was just born with.
Yeah, you look like 25 at like 14.
Yeah, and then I now look younger than you know
Cool.
when I'm older, but I had physical attributes. I was a decathlete in college, and I was like breaking records early in different events. So there's things I was born with that when I took into martial arts that made me a very efficient fighter. I was very fast as a big man. I moved different than a lot of big guys. And so the fighting was easy for me, right? I had a lot of, you know, a lot of control, a lot of like I say, attributes. But when I was a fighter, when I was fighting mainly, I wasn't a better martial artist at that time because I was concentrating on what I was best at. And being with a male dominated kind of sport or, art, even my instructors gave me leeway that other people didn't have. Until one day, like I realized that uh, there were people that were training beside me that were training harder. They didn't have the physical attributes I had, and people didn't notice that. But I realized I was getting away with things because if I start cramping up, I'm like, oh, it's okay, Mike. It's like, really, it's not okay. Just because even my instructors made a big deal of me being such a good fighter, I'm going, you know what? They're wrong. What I realized one day is there was a kid half my size, a guy named Sean. And Sean would get no accolades, but every day he trained to his fullest. And I noticed that. And I came up with this philosophy. Okay, say it takes me 1,000 kicks to become fatigued, and it takes him 100. And he pushes to 120. And I rest on the fact that I'm doing 1,000, I'm doing a lot more than him. Right? Who's a better martial artist? He is. He's pushing way beyond his comfort zone.
Yeah.
When he gets to 500 and I'm still at my 1,000, who's gotten better? He's gotten better. It's his will and his determination. When he eventually gets to 1,000, his 1,000, the quality of his 1,000 is so much greater than mine that is laughable. Now, he gets to 1,000. If this man has to take 3 jobs to feed his family, his will, his determination is there already. What if he decides in a fight, I'm going to take 1,000 of Mike's blows, and then I'm going to fell him at 1,001. That's the for me and the way I put it together. That's the essence of what real martial arts is. Okay. Then I started to push to my best, right? Which is not about the comparative method. It's about, you know what? That man's a better martial artist than me.
Yeah.
Just because it's kind of the grasshopper and the, it was a grasshopper and the ant or the tortoise and the hare type of thing.
Yeah.
And I know, what's his name? Khabib said it really well that us gifted people don't train as hard. I mean, that's, he kind of paraphrased it in a certain way that I arrived at,
Like,
look, I'm going to train to my best ability. And when I did, I became the best version of myself, right? Which was far beyond. So, hey, I'm in the 2000s. And now my strength and determination, I take with me in directing, writing, and doing everything. And guess what? There's nothing in life that's too hard for me because I push myself in the true ethic of what martial arts is. And it's not about comparing it to anyone else. Yeah, I was able to, I used to kick a basketball rim, right? I used to, at the end of the school year, I would do that sometimes. And because people would bet me. But I had the ability to do that. I was already a high jump champion, but I also did martial arts. So what's the limit if I go to become my best? So that is the real ethic of martial arts, not about the comparative method. If you're doing your best, you cannot do more than that. And to compare to someone else is just a distraction. The way I look at my opponent is as an apparatus to make me better. As when I bow, I go, okay, wow. Even if you are a lesser ability than me, if you're a yellow belt and I'm a black belt, Well, I might move when your fist comes this close, and I may do so uh, unsuccessfully, or I might work my worst techniques, but I'm going to make sure I train and get something out of it. You might walk away going, "Oh, Mike is not nearly as good as I thought." No, but I just pulled up some of my weaker techniques, and so my philosophy was get better any practice. Don't, just because I have physical attributes, don't try to dominate anyone. That's ego. And so those are the things in martial arts and in life that has helped me a great deal. And it's just in it, like I say, it starts by just really being honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you take a lot of these things from martial arts into your daily life. So where you say, I don't need to necessarily dominate in the situation. That can be in conversations, or I just sit and listen. I just sit and
Mhm.
learn. I lighten up a little bit. I don't take offense to certain things. If I'm not good at something, I say it. I ask for help. These are all things that just kind of let the ego go so that I mean, just to like flat out say it, it just means that you're open minded. You're open minded. You're open to opportunities. You might make somebody else feel good that day just because they're like,
Mhm.
well, John White actually asked me a question. You know what I mean? Like there's ways that I think a lot of that stuff about lightening up enhances our just everyday lifestyle. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
well, yeah.
think particularly is a big thing with this because I think people think it's easier than it actually is. It's really hard. It takes a lot of almost repetition to put in, and you've acted and you directed. So my question was going to be like, how do you take this type of work ethic and technique into something similar to martial arts, but in some ways very, very different?
Well, I take it into everything, right? Uh, it's just everything's about an obstacle, overcoming obstacles. You got a white belt to yellow belt. These are obstacles that you overcome. And whether, I'm going to bring this movie in under budget, on time, all these type of obstacles, these are fairly easy obstacles in comparison. I honestly don't think very much is hard. I really don't. Because it's just the way you look at it. I mean, when like, there's not many things that are more taxing at jobs as far as that's concerned as a director, right?
Yeah.
Because you're handling 80 some odd people. Um, the clock is ticking. You're responsible. I love it. I don't even feel like I'm supposed to be getting paid for it. I enjoy it. I'm so and one thing that helps is that I remember where I came from. My God, there was times where I've been in things in my life that you've only seen in movies.
Yeah.
Like, really, I've been on my own since I was 14. I have seen 12 to 14 shootouts and have nearly lost my life several times. When I think about my problems back then, and I think about my problems, if you want to call them that now, I laugh at that.
Yeah.
So here I am in a house bigger than anybody. I mean, I'm in the guest house right now. I mean, I'm in a guest house with a big movie theater right there. Uh, and where I came from, I mean, there's projects. It was so I don't forget that. And and I'm the happiest guy I know. So I should be slapped if I complain about my issues now, really. So yeah, you could say things are hard, but in comparison to when I was a school teacher or when I was working construction, oh no, this is not hard.
I feel like every job we have, you somehow like the character Rogue in the X-Men, you take something that you use later on. Like I had like a
Mhm.
crappy retail job when I was in my 20s, and my closet is perfectly aligned with clothes. Like every little job that you have in your life, you take something out of that.
Yeah,
Can
I use it in films. I wrote I wrote on the movie As Good as Dead, right?
Mhm.
I was a surveyor for construction, and so I used things I learned about that in movie. Um, I use a little bit of a number of things that, so it just makes you more seasoned, you know?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
but that's similar to just kind of not taking life for granted, not taking things for granted. So let's like break down one or two films and say like one thing that you got from each one of them.
Okay.
So let's say like what did you get from Why Did I Get Married?
Oh boy, yeah. I got a chance to be pretty creative on that as well. I worked with a bunch of friends. If you ever see Why Did I Get Married, I was written as a barber. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, I was a barber. That
Yeah.
originally that's all I was. In an improv, in the beginning of the movie, I tell Tasha, who's playing my wife, I say, well, you didn't, what about when I was playing pro football and blah blah blah? That was an improv. I was not a football player. I was not written as a football player. I did that. She improv back with me, and therefore, uh, I then became a football player. And in the next movie, as you
Yeah.
see,
They
I was
made
not only a pro football player, but I had my own show. So like that's really that's really fun when you can contribute along with it. So that was, I feel like, I mean, one of my favorite movies back in the day uh was it Jason? No, what is it? No, Love Jones.
Mhm. Oh, I love that movie. Yeah.
It represented Black folks of a certain age group that was a little under ours, and I felt like we were able to represent a slightly older group
Mhm.
that just kind of, there wasn't that representation in movies that I felt. Like I felt like, yeah, these are upwardly mobile, college educated uh, group that you didn't see represented. So I was very proud of being that, uh, and which is, closer to what my experience actually has been in the world.
Sure. Okay, so speaking of representation, there's no way I couldn't bring up Spawn,
Right,
right?
right. Uh-huh.
So what were some of the things that you took away or added to Spawn?
Well, I mean, with Spawn, one little thing, I overcame my claustrophobia. I was forced to.
Yeah.
So that was something like that, being where I'm like, oh my God, how can I deal with it? The whole claustrophobic thing. The only thing that was on my real body that was exposed are my eyelashes. Even my eye was covered in a big contact lens, but
Yeah.
everything was covered. And there's times where you feel like you're going to lose your mind because I'm encased. You know, I'm like, that whole trap thing was a big fear of mine that I had to dig down. And again, here comes the martial arts thing again. You can overcome it. You have to control your mind. You have to control yourself. And that became my obstacle that I had to overcome. And so that confidence, or if you want to there call it ego, that's where it comes in, where I can overcome this. I learned that I can.
Yeah, that's the
So
good
that was one of the biggest things I had to deal with,
Oh
is
my,
overcoming that feeling.
you realize the gravity of, being an African American and being in that film and the superhero genre like at that time because it's generally one of the ones that kind of kicked that genre off in a lot of ways.
To be honest with you, that had no bearing to me whatsoever. I don't think in that term.
Okay.
Uh, you know, Other people say, "Oh yeah, the first black superhero." I get it, and then there's a certain point where you're just like, "Oh, okay." I don't, I don't look at the world as the, I don't look at the world as just from black. I like, I look like it as I'm an individual. I'm a man. I, you know, it's like you said, I was the first Scorpio to do such and such. It would be the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm not proud of who I am and my race or whatever, but it really had no significance to me whatsoever. Other people put more significance on it than I did. I'm going to do my best no matter what.
I
So
I
yeah.
get it from a perspective of like, when I got into the industry as a Latina woman, and
Mhm.
I'm mixed, it was like I had to be like you, who were your choices? Video hoe, the maid,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
girlfriend. I had to sound like Rosie Perez, or I was pregnant, or I was the pregnant drug dealer's girlfriend in the music video. Like that was the choices at like when I was like 20 years old. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. It's very similar to my situation.
what would
But
you
there's
think
like,
getting in back then?
yeah, but you have the choice. Like, okay, like, okay, I became, as you say, the first Black superhero. I'm still so it's kind of like, well, that was a choice as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, yeah, there are a lot of choices to do to brand myself in the stereotype, but that's showing what I'm not. Because I don't have to do that. You
Yeah.
know, and one of the things that Denzel Washington says brilliantly, sometimes your career is shaped by the things that you reject. So uh, I knew who I was, and if if people want to say this is who you are, and it's like I laugh about that because you don't know who I am. If they try to say that, you determine what your worth is. I've heard some of the craziest stuff. I mean, one of a super powerful uh, studio head met with me years ago and talked to me. We had I thought was a really good meeting, and he says, "Man, with your acting ability, drama, because I done theater in New York and everything, and you're funny, you have action and all that. You could be big as Tom Cruise. Too bad you're Black."
What?
Yeah, he said that like it was nothing. And so I'm like, wow, that's really how you think.
How did you react to that?
I'm like, well, I look at it like, oh, I look at it as a gift because you're telling me how you think and others like you think. And so instead of getting angry about that, I'm like, thanks for the insight. Thanks for being as transparent, feeling like, of course, everybody would agree with me. It's like what he was like, kind of, the way he said it so flippantly. I'm going, you're providing insight for me that I need to use, and I'm going to circumvent that.
How
Yeah,
did
there's a lot of people who are going to kind of put you on a certain shelf and say that's what you are, and like, too bad you're Black because we can't sell somebody like you. Like, I mean, I've had a lot of that. Think about this industry. This is one of the only industries they say, well, we're going white on this one. We're not looking for, I mean, that's out, that's in description.
yeah.
So that's been that way for a long time. You know, I've responded to uh, things that said in the description, a Michael Jai White type.
You're like, I'm auditioning for
Hey,
something.
yeah. Hey, guess what? I'm a Michael Jai White type, and wouldn't get it. you know,
That's great.
because because then there were higher ups that said, no, we can't sell this guy overseas because they had the belief of that, which
Wow.
they were wrong. But some people will find any reason to support their whatever you want to call their bias, their racism, or whatever, because they go, okay, well, I don't have to think anything beyond this. Oh, blacks don't sell overseas, and they want to hold on to that. It's
Yeah.
not true because action sells all over the world, or I wouldn't even be here.
Yeah.
It's
Eddie,
always
Eddie
been
Murphy
true.
and Will Smith have proved executives wrong so many times.
Yeah, but yes, but so it's like there's one reason why we know who Jackie Chan and Jet Li and Jean-Claude Van Damme are, and we can't think of any other actors from their part of the world. It's because action sells worldwide. And so,
A funny thing, right? Like
yeah.
we want to be on that roller coaster ride and
Hmm.
find action that also is mesmerizing by the story. Like, for example, The Dark Knight.
Hmm.
People will talk about that film for years, considered one of the greatest comic book films of all time. You were in that. You got to work with one of the greatest Jokers of all time, one of the most iconic Batmans of all time. What was that like to be a part of something, especially that is action, but that is in the pop culture zeitgeist as one of the GOAT films?
Well, it was great. I mean, I didn't know how great it was going to be. I can't pretend to look at it that deep, but the surprising thing was like studying, like, seeing movies that yeah, Chris Nolan did, and then to meet the guy. I'm expecting this like eccentric, like very artistic, regular guy, one of the most regular, down to earth people you've ever seen. Just like, I mean, I'd ask him questions and he'd ask me, what do I think? I'm like, what? Like I'm like, you know, wasn't expecting that, but that it kind of makes sense because like he's got this everyman quality and it's not lost, even though he has brilliance in storytelling and movie making. But I think that's why his stuff is so successful because he is that regular guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Because you would never think, you would never think that about him. So
Oh yeah.
that's
He's solid earth.
and now the film that's coming out on August 1st, Trouble Man.
Hmm.
That named after the Marvin Gaye song, or yes, I see the shirt. What's the reasoning behind the title? This is a
It
very
was a
famous.
movie starring this man, Robert Hooks.
Okay.
It's called
Okay.
Trouble Man, one of my favorites of back in the day in 1971. This was one of the baddest actors ever in that genre. The movie didn't get its due back in the day, but man, uh, Robert Hooks was one of the most amazing actors. All he wanted to do is just act. He wasn't trying to be Mr. Movie Star or what have you. But if you follow I mean, he's one of the constructs of the Negro Ensemble Theater. He is like he is so worthy of two walks of fame. But he's a consummate actor, and I felt like his performance in Trouble Man as a kid, I thought, oh, he was the baddest of the baddest asses, you know, just because I mean, I felt like he was such a great actor that it didn't seem like he was acting.
Yeah.
But he's been in man, he's all kinds of genres. But yeah, I had an affinity for this movie, and to I was honored to bring back this title because I think even to this day his performance, even though back in the day, the Shaft, Superfly, and the Mac, they were very campy, but they were kind of uh, that was kind of a style in that day. But this was to me a performance, a actual dramatic, like rooted performance in that day and age.
You did one of my favorite sort of like parody comedies in Black Dynamite.
Mm,
I had seen you be funny in films before, and I had seen you be serious in films before, but Black Dynamite was such a gem because you did like that sort of like dry, humor, but taking yourself seriously, but not seriously at the same time. And
mm,
that's a unique art form in comedy where you're serious, but it's funny. Can you talk
mm.
about like making that film and just being comedic and like what that was like for you?
Well, it's kind of like this, like I thought of the material as really funny to revisit. Just like it's funny to look at movies that was done in the 70s and they had futuristic movies that occurred in 1999 and there was flying cars.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty funny when you look back at it, you know, and so back in the 70s, we had these movies that occurred after, I mean, in the 60s, there was like no black representation, right? And so in the 70s, the fact that Shaft came out and Sweet Sweetback's badass song, and in the inner cities got, they responded to these movies with black people in them. And
Yes.
there was this hilarious overcorrection of hyper black masculine ass kickers that was just like overcorrection is an understatement, like he's bad. He's just, shooting white folks. Like I would count sometimes, it'd be like 68, like white, like the white men were so overly racist,
Yeah.
or it was so caricaturish. And the overcorrection is that a black man could just shoot everybody, and nobody cares. Like it's just like, die, whitey. It was like that kind of stuff. And I thought it was absolutely hilarious to revisit it. And when you think about one of the biggest movie of that time was Three the Hard Way. You had three of the most dominant black action stars. You had Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, and Jim Kelly.
Yeah.
All in a movie where the plot was about this evil Dr. Feather who had three liters of liquid that he was going to put in the water systems of three major black cities that was going to kill all the black people. It was serious.
Yeah.
It was not a comedy. Not a comedy. Now, how funny is that?
Yeah.
So it's just funny to just represent it the same way that it was done. It's just fun. It's hilarious. And of course, some of those movies, since there was that black exploitation era, they did the movies on shoestring budgets just because they knew that since the inner cities were crowded with black people, the theaters would do well, and it saved Hollywood. And so they did like 414 movies in the span of like 5 years. They just littered the movies with these things. And like some of them, didn't have the quality. And so, you'd see the boom mic, and that they were only shooting one or two takes. So I took that whole genre and kind of made a movie that represented it honestly, which was also quite comedic if you treated it as such. So me as the writer, so the fictitious writers of the movie, they're the real stars because they're writing something that they think is really, kind of revolutionary, but heavy-handed. So that's kind of like a way into it, like why I thought it would be so funny. Because I was listening to James Brown's Superbad one day, and I got the whole idea for the movie, even in concluding this nunchuck fight scene with Richard Nixon.
Yes.
I'm being driven to a set, and I'm laughing my ass off, and the driver thinks I've lost my mind because I'm seeing Richard Nixon with nunchucks fighting Black Dynamite at the end of the movie. And I'm thinking this is hilarious to me. And so when I got back, I started writing it.
I feel like comedy is so much more important than we realize. Like, I went to see Chappelle several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very good seats. And he had people just show up, and he had Jerry Seinfeld show up just randomly out of nowhere. So I do this one in my comedy club sometimes, just because it like feeds my soul, where I stop looking at the stage and I look at the audience. And I look
Hmm.
at the audience, man, and it's like every age, every color. And when you laugh, it's a involuntary combustible joy burst that comes out.
Yeah.
So I look around and I get kind of choked up because I realize this room full of people. It's at a Radio City Music Hall. It's packed. There's not an empty seat of the house. They're combusting. They're
Mm.
collectively sharing joy. And I'm like, man, action, great, but action comedies, that roller coaster ride, watching people combustibly like share joy. And this is several years ago, but you and I were waxing poetic about funny films or funny comedians. And you were like, I got to get to another comedy, got to get to another comedy. Soon, soon, soon. That's what you had said. So it
Hmm.
felt like it was the perfect time for us to talk because this film, is a comedy. It comes out on August 1st called Trouble Man, and it's with you and Method Man and Mike Epps. So tell me a little bit about the film and like how satisfied are you that it's comedy?
Oh yeah, I mean it really delivers. Method Man is amazing. He's hilarious. I wrote it for him to steal this movie, and he did. You know, uh, he I gotta hand it to him because not only was he far better than expected, but he's the hero of this movie in a way where, sometimes it takes brotherhood and it takes a certain type of you know uh person that will tell their representatives, I got this. I'm doing this for not I'm not doing this for the money. You stand down, I appreciate you, but no, you're not supposed to understand why I'm doing this, but I'm doing this, you know? And I wouldn't have done the movie if it wasn't for him. I had this version, but I didn't want to do it unless, and this is borrowing from back in the day where my heroes and my images that I looked at were Fred Williamson and Jim Brown. If I'm the Jim Brown, I wanted my Fred Williamson, and
Yeah.
that was Method Man. Two dominant black men who hold their own. And that's what I wanted to be partnered with. I wanted to do homage to my heroes. And I felt like he is the only person I would have done this movie with. And I'm so thankful and grateful that he saw this image and said yes and delivered it.
Well, I mean, I got a Wu-Tang tattoo. So like the Wu-Tang and specifically Method Man and Jizza are my favorite. Uh,
Mhm.
I just think he's so witty and so clever, witty,
Yeah,
unpredictable.
and then I'm sorry, then the work that he's done over the last number of years, how
Very
he's dug it deep in his physicality, how he's been so transparent and such a leader, with people, being very transparent with you know uh, like mental health issues and all that. That's heroic. I felt like, man, it's like it was just fortuitous that he was the man for this job, like no other. And I literally wouldn't have done the movie if it wasn't for him.
Now, the whole theme of our show today, it was about like lightening up and how lightening up and like not taking yourself so seriously and filtering your anger and all those things leads to these amazing opportunities in life,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Controlling all of those things. So if you were going to give advice to somebody about how to lighten up and how to just kind of let that help you unfold certain things in your life, what would you say?
Wow, it's just about the truth. Be on a search for the truth. I mean, that's people, we delude ourselves so much. I would encourage people to reach out and get help. It's nothing weak about asking for help. It's really not. And if you have children in this world, it should be an easy choice because you want them to have a better life than you, usually, as you should. Well, a lot of times when people are at crossroads and they don't know what to do, I always ask them this: what would you tell your child to do if your child was faced with the same obstacles that you are? Would you tell your child not to get help? Would you tell your child just to stick it out and just be miserable and don't fix what might be broken? So, you know, take your own advice, do what you would do, or do what you would, tell your child to do, because you know you're going to love your child above yourself and you're going to tell them the right thing to do. So it's up to us to face that and do that.
Mm.
We're not supposed to have all the answers. And so many of us, I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, okay, like, or if you treat a child, if a child of trauma, right, needs to get that fixed, right? How many of us have not come from trauma? If
We're all traumatized in some
I mean,
way.
come on, like, so you're going to tell me that there's no trauma in your life or your parents' life that's been sent down to you? Like, it's nothing that you're supposed to control. You owe it to yourself to investigate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So luckily for me, I had this quest and I'm in a vocation where self-exploration is encouraged, right? It's not only encouraged, it's a necessity. So I have to represent humanity. Honestly, that's my job. So walking in the footsteps of other people makes you look at your life differently. So every role to me has changed me in certain ways.
Mhm.
There was a role I played in a movie with rest in peace, Luke Gossett Jr. called Captive Heart, where I played a slave. And it forced me to look at life from a slave's perspective. And I know I was interviewed by several people who said, "Wow, how is that? How rough is it playing a slave?" And they expected a certain answer from me.
What
That
did you expect?
well, well, and I think my answer surprised them because I was playing a slave that grew up on a plantation. I knew my mom. As usual, like you're not going to know your father because fatherhood was forbidden. If a father was in the plantation, you wouldn't listen to the overseer or the master. So fatherhood was out of there. So me playing this character, the fact that I knew my mother, and I had to really force myself to think like a slave who's only lived on that property. And I said to myself, wow, what I mean, the singing voice, it has to represent an orchestra to me. The flowers, the simple things would represent the most beautiful things in the world to me. The fact that I know my mom and I can have her cooking. And here's this one fact is that we all come from a generation that was worse off than ours. That's usually been the case. And that's been the case in even slavery. And realizing that my character was not beaten daily, realizing my character was probably living much better than the generation before mine, and looking at the simple things in life and the fact that I don't know about the 90s or 2000s. I just know that I'm kind of, and I grew up with the master and I were similar age, and
Mm.
I had a friendship with him somewhat. I'm going, wow, life to this guy isn't that bad. And so when I was done with that movie, guess what? Flowers still were beautiful. The fact that I can listen to music amplified the great things about my life, looking at it as a slave, made me look at the opportunities I have as a free person. And that role has had such an impact on who I am today
Wow.
by knowing where we came from and the struggles and the fact that even my father had it worse than I have it now. Because, of course, my father is not so far removed from the time where you could not have Black manhood. Because once we've gotten free, how were we, what model did we have? We didn't have fathers that we had to figure it out as we went along, you know? And, so I look at from whence we came. And, and I know that, times we get better. And I realize, even though it's not perfect from where I came from, me in the streets of Brooklyn and Bridgeport, Connecticut, and where I am now, oh my goodness. I don't know many people who have survived I've done. And one of my favorite passages that I borrow from is Mark Twain, where he says, the two most important days of your life is the day you were born and then the day you find out why. And knowing that I'm here as a servant and I have this amazing ability to bring joy into other people's lives, and that's part of my job, and it's a job I love, I'm doing pretty damn good. And so it's really about service to others at this point. So, the fact that, there's nothing that I want. Like I'm continue to, for my family and everything else, but there's not like, oh, I want this role or that, whatever. I'm able to do my own things. I have a business model. I have investors. I have people who believe in me. I'm fine. Um,
Like a lot of the things that when it comes to lightening up or letting go your ego comes from gratitude.
yes.
Taking something and learning something from every single moment and
Mhm.
not letting that be taken for granted. I mean, everything we've talked about for the last 40 minutes, Mike, is you really been like, from this, I got this, and from this, I got this, and from that. And you just don't seem to turn a blind eye or let your ego control any of these situations. Like you are just embracing and ingesting and learning from all of these experiences, and you're very grateful. And I think that that's what's made you so, I guess, quote unquote, joyful in so many ways. So let's say somebody is struggling and they don't have like things to, or they don't think they have things to be grateful for. Like, what would you tell them?
Well, you have the opportunity, the rare opportunity to enjoy life at a higher level. Because from whence I came, because I came from those humble beginnings, I have an enjoyment that people who had a silver spoon in their mouth will never have.
Yeah.
They will never have that. So, uh, Roberto Benigni said he had the joy of the gift of poverty. You know, that, you know what I mean. So it's kind of like, okay, those hard times make the good times so much better. You know what I mean? That's the way you look at it. And if you know that, if you like Well, one of my philosophies, every day I live, I do something for the future. And once I'm done with that, I live in the moment, right? I mean, you could look up and see there's clouds, and that may mean it might rain, right? But I always want to be able to look up in the clouds and say, "Hey, wow, that's shaped like a bunny." You know what I mean? So you have these gifts every day, and that bunny is your gift. And if you are satisfied with what you've done for the future, live in that moment because you're never going to see it again.
And then it can't rain all the time.
Right, but you have the gift. If you have your health, and it's sad that you're wasting time just focused on what you don't have yet. If you've accomplished, like I say, well, for me, doing something for the future, whatever, I make my own 9 to 5, I do my business, whatever. And in after that, I'm going to live in the moment. And I learned that from growing up in the ghetto, because nobody lives in the moment better than people from the ghetto, because that's all you have. Or
Right.
that's all you have is your relationships and things in the moment. You know what I mean? And there's a beauty in living that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get caught up in that because it's so vibrant. Because everything is, you're living on a 10 from 0 to 10. Everything is popping on a high level.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people, people who are very conservative and live life this way, just in a very conservative way, they don't experience that type of stuff. So everything, like with the yin and the yang, is about a balance. And so, like I say, that works for me, to be like,
I
uh,
love it.
getting the work done. And then, baby, what like me and the family, we might wind up in Santa Barbara. Let's go there. Like, you know what I mean? Or let's do this. Like, well, how can we make the best of this day that we have? And because you got your homework done, I got my stuff done. Let's be butterflies right now, you
Mhm.
know? And so that balance to me works for me, because I don't look back and say, I should have done this or that. So, that's, you use it if you like, but that's what works for me.
Well, I really look forward to seeing this film. I'm look forward to seeing you and Method Man together. That is such a great duo. But before we go, we do something fun. We do this speed round of questions, stuff
Uh,
I know you're gonna like. So I'm gonna ask you about 12 questions really quick, like first thing that comes to your mind. Who's the best actor with a martial arts background besides yourself?
the best actor with a Michelle Yeoh.
Good answer. Very good answer.
Yeah, it's an easy answer.
Yeah. Childhood celebrity crush.
Childhood celebrity crush. Oh my God, I got to be honest too. Shoot. Oh, I think I told her.
12, 13.
Huh?
12, 13, like childhood celebrity crush.
His childhood celebrity crush is Tisha Campbell.
Oh, good one. That's a good one. Okay,
Yeah.
toughest fighter you've ever sparred with.
Say again.
Toughest fighter you've ever sparred with.
Toughest fighter I ever sparred with. Oh, Jon Jones.
Okay,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Favorite current UFC fighter.
Khalil Roundtree.
Leo Roundtree. Oh, he's a great
Oh
human.
my God. Khalil Roundtree is I love this man.
Yes, I understand why. I understand
You
why.
you you do understand why.
I do. I understand why he's just got the heart of, he just has so much heart and
I
he's a
love Khalil Roundtree is my favorite fighter
send
because
him
of the human being he is.
lovely, lovely person. Him and his wife are lovely.
Yeah.
Most influential person in your career.
Most influential person in my career? Ooh, oh wow, there's so many, but I would say Martin Sheen, because of the human being that he is.
Okay, good answer. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting. Um, what hobby do you do outside of martial arts? You play,
Most people don't realize that. I play classical piano.
oh my God, I'm gonna have to make you play piano for us one day, Mike. Okay. Uh, favorite food.
Favorite food is fried rice. Probably the crab fried rice uh, from Natalie Ty in Culver City.
Most difficult martial art to learn.
Wushu.
Wushu? I thought you'd say jujitsu because that's the one
Oh
that's
God, no. Wushu is is
oh,
incredibly hard to learn. Nobody masters wushu. It's so vast and
yeah.
so hard to do. That's like ballet.
Oh my God, that's really true. That's really
Right. Yeah. It's for me, when I train wushu, it makes any other physical art easier because it demands so much from you, especially if you're a
big
size
muscle
my
person.
size doing
Yeah,
wushu, you know, trying to keep the timing of people that are half my size.
yeah.
So that means I have to be faster and everything to
Yeah,
keep up with that.
now
Yeah.
I can see what you mean from a like a choreography perspective.
But
Uh,
still, but just performance wise, to perform wushu is the height of human, martial arts ability.
100%. Okay,
Yeah.
we go to do karaoke. What song you picking?
My favorite karaoke song is Born to Run.
Really? Oh, I'm not
Hmm.
expecting that. I rap because I sing really bad. Anything Eminem, I'm gonna kill it, or anything Rakim,
Oh,
anything
okay.
I'm killing. Um, and now last one is like favorite superhero.
My favorite superhero, Spawn.
It's a good answer. How could you say anything else?
I mean, I gotta say, I'm biased because I mean, of
Yeah,
course, what Spawn meant to my life. But growing up, it was the Hulk
sure.
because growing up as the Hulk because I had a similar temper than him.
See, here we are so many years later having this conversation, but I really want you to know. I mean, Mike, I don't know if you realize that it was like 16, 17 years ago. I think longer, actually. It was like 7 years
Really?
ago when we first met. Yes. And that stuck with me. What you
What's up with you?
what you said about anger and how you
Oh,
control anger, that always stuck with me. You were like, before I do, I ask myself a question, and I had a very bad temper growing up and blah blah blah. And I don't know why, but I just every time I see somebody that like out of control with anger, and I'm
hmm.
wish you would just understand where your emotions. And I do feel bad. I think for men, going to the anger dial is easier than being vulnerable or being hurt or like trying to dig deeper and understand, or they're afraid to be like vulnerable and upset. Women, I will say this to men out there, there's a big difference. We actually think you're more emotional when you're angry than we do when you're honest, open, and vulnerable. Being
Hmm.
vulnerable is different than being like falling apart. And I
Yeah.
think that men mistake falling apart with being honest and vulnerable. Um,
Hmm.
so they think that we're going to be turned off by vulnerability. We're not. We actually find you almost more masculine when you're real about your feelings
Well,
than
that
just for
that
all.
that's when that's real women though.
Okay.
So a lot of guys, oh, bless their hearts, are confused. Oh man, we're so visual sometimes that they'll have an image of who the woman is or whatever, and they let that delude their intellect because they're just so caught up with what someone looks like. And so there will be very toxic women that will inform the man if they're weak or not. These are children. These are women who see a man that's open and vulnerable, might look at him as, oh, he's weak, because that she might have grown up very dysfunctional. Because
Mm.
I'm sorry to say this, a lot of guys fall for the looks, right? And when you got a woman that is pretty attractive, there's a possibility that she's living in an alternate world, a world that's telling her, you're right. You have nothing to work on because you're pretty. You know what I mean? And they may be just pretty, pretty psychopaths. because a lot of people are not telling them that they need to check this or that. And I know in my age, there's a lot of these women who had never, who never learned these things, and they're bitter women, bitter, lonely women now,
Yeah.
because they thought, real masculinity was something other than being strong enough to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
And
so
that,
hopefully men can
not
not be influenced by that, and
right.
be influenced by real women who can recognize what true manhood is.
Yeah. You want to talk about it and you want to be advocates for each other. I think that's the biggest thing between men and women. Yes, women, we have tons of things that are hard. We do, but it's not my stuff's harder than your stuff. It's life
Mm,
is, and
yeah,
girlfriends all the time, they're like, I don't need a man. I'm like, yeah, you do. Not because you need a man and you're not independent and you can't do it on your own. It's because people need people. We're better
yeah,
together. We're just better together. I don't
absolutely.
condition out by myself and fall out the window. It would be nice if you helped. Like, you
Mhm.
want the shelves and I make you a sandwich. It's not inequality. It's like you do this and I do that, and we're better together. And I think men and women are just, or couples, gay, straight, whatever you are, we're better together when we're advocates for each other, when we understand each other's stuff, and where you could be vulnerable and be understood, where you could
Mhm.
get free, but like work on that arousal control so you ask yourself the right questions. And it's always been great to talk to you, Mike, because you've always been very open about like the joys and the hurts and the whatever. And more importantly, I'll say this, besides being a great actor and a very, very talented fighter too, I've seen you spar, you've always been a real martial artist. And you pride yourself on that. And I'm really looking forward to the film. And I know we got to wrap up, but I want to say plug away, plug everything.
Well, yeah. Well, I got Trouble Man coming out. I have another movie called Hostile Takeover that's be coming out like later in the year. These movies are some things I'm very proud of, and I don't just blow my own horn. I don't. These, because I have the ability of looking at a movie, and if there's a movie that I did and didn't work, I'll tell you. but these are things that I'm very happy about, and I feel like the trajectory is going really well. So in this movie, it's like the sixth movie I did with my wife. You
Oh
know,
yeah, she's great
yeah,
on. She got a side.
yeah, yep. And we have we're going to be, I'm going to be doing a romantic comedy with her like in a couple of months, and so things are very well. So yeah, I feel like to whom much is given, much is required, and I'm happy to be able to, if I can help people out along the way, it's my joy to do that. And I've had a wonderful time talking to you again. And I want us to work together one day.
For
We
sure.
almost did.
I know. Well, we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I really truly believe that the universe opens those doors when it's supposed to. So
Uh-huh.
where it's supposed to, like we will definitely work together again. And don't wait another 10 years for us to link up and have one of these great chats.
All right. All right. Cool.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So interesting for me as a martial artist. One of my first ever martial arts interviews was Michael Jai White. And here we are. I'm more of an adult now. I think I'm an adult child, but I just come back to that conversation that I had with him so many years ago and how impressionable it was on me. And really, when we're talking about lightening up and being joyful and not taking yourself so seriously and living your dreams as he's obviously doing, the main theme was being grateful, asking questions, and just taking a second to calm yourself down. And that seems to be really working for him. And I think that that's great advice overall. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm at Phoenix Carnevale. It is at the Knockout Life on Instagram and the Knockout Life podcast on YouTube. Check it out. Give us a like, subscribe, and all those things so we can keep giving you great episodes. Till next time.